Hi, welcome to the Stuff of the Month for November 2025. The first week of November was spent in Romania, of all places, where we celebrated Halloween at Dracula's castle and did a lot of sightseeing. During that time, I polished off The Deaths of Tao by Wesley Chu. That is the middle part of the Tao trilogy, and much like The Empire Strikes Back and other middle parts of trilogies, the protagonists get their butts kicked good and hard and seem to be in an unwinnable position to kick off the last book, which is The Rebirths of Tao, which I will probably be reading January, maybe? We'll see. I would give this one about 3.5 to 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but it's also a little on the downer side, but it has humor and action, and it really, delivers on that front. When I finished that book, I started Dracula, Prince of Darkness, edited by Martin H. Greenberg. I got up to the third story, which was Blood Drive by Rex Miller. And when I finished that story, I was like, okay, I don't know if I can continue reading this for the moment. So I decided to crack open the Dracula Archives, which is on the back of the book. It says it's nonfiction, but it's not. It's a novel, and it's about it's a prequel to Bram Stoker's Dracula, which alleges to explain where and how Dracula came into being. That's a bit of a stretch. The first third of the book is more focused on Elizabeth Bathory, who is better known as, I guess, Countess Dracula. She's known for bathing in the blood of virgins, and her supposed link to Vlad, or the family of Vlad the Impaler. And then there's this whole thing with like spirit hopping from bodies to bodies. And then I hit a point where it was clear that there was a lot of info dumping going on. And we were also flying back from our trip at the time when I was reading this. And my eyes were getting tired. So I decided to put it down for a bit. And I watched the 1931 Dracula and its direct follow-up sequel, 1936's Dracula's Daughter. I don't know how many times I've seen the 1931 Dracula, but I was surprised with this viewing how front-loaded it was. That most of the really memorable stuff happens in like the first 30 to 40 minutes. I think from Renfeld, because it's Renfeld in the movie, not Harker, when Renfeld arrives at the castle, up to when Dracula arrives in London and he walks around and goes to the theater to meet Dr. Seward and everyone. Up through that, it's really great. After that, it really gets kind of stagey, and I was surprised that the Lucy subplot got dropped without any resolution. I was like, oh. And most of the last half of the film seems to take place in one room and on a balcony, which is really stagey and stodgy, but it's still a movie well worth seeing. I followed that, of course, with, I said, Dracula's Daughter, which was the first time I think I watched the movie beginning to end. And it was an interesting follow-up that went into some intriguing thematic territory. I do agree that the model scene, I don't know how that got past the Hays Code censors because it's so blatant, but maybe they just, who knows. But although it picks up right where Dracula left off, or Dracula ended, with two police officers discovering um, Van Helsing with the remains of Renfield, whose neck is broken, and Dracula, who has a stake through his heart. He's arrested for both murders and charged, and it's despite that, and it's the same actor who played Van Helsing. Despite all that, he winds up not calling Jonathan Harker and Mina and Dr. Seward in as character witnesses. Those characters just disappear. Instead, there is another character that's brought in. And what I found really interesting as the movie played out was that this character that is brought in is a psychiatrist, I believe, and he's got this really Hoxian, wisecracking female sidekick that's clearly in love with him. And their banter and play, she crank calls him while he's with Dracula's daughter at one point. That was a pretty funny scene. And that relationship is mirrored by the relationship with Dracula's daughter and her male servant, who is actually seems to wield power over her. So I thought that was an interesting approach, but it really is really light on Gothic, and it's, with the exception of the modeling scene and a couple other bits, it's really light on the horror. But it's an intriguing and interesting film, well worth checking out. Purchase-wise, the only thing I wound up getting was when we visited Bran Castle, also known as Dracula's Castle. Got this puzzle of the castle, so I will be putting that together. Also, Tanya got me this little pamphlet of tales and legends from Transylvania, which I should be reading next month, which is tomorrow, December. Probably be picking that up. And the other thing that arrived was the Vinegar Syndrome release of Sleepless, a 2001 giallo offering from Dario Argento about a detective played by Max von Sydow who has insomnia and is tracking a killer. And it's not Argento at his best, but it is certainly far from Argento at his worst. It's a solid little movie. I didn't do any posting on my blog during that time. I decided just to let it just sit there, and I went back to posting newspaper ads on Monday, November 10th, which was a Friday in the year 1978, and that was when the Oakland Tribune ran an ad for a handful of sneak preview screenings for John Carpenter's Halloween, no doubt hoping to generate some positive word of mouth before it opened on Wednesday, November 15th. That's when it opened in the San Francisco Bay Area. Tuesday, November 11th, was a Sunday in 1979, and we have this teaser ad for the upcoming release of The Legacy. It's a movie that I didn't see when it came out in theaters, but I remember the ads for the predominant image of a woman trapped underneath the water in a swimming pool, and some withered skeletal hands slipping a finger onto Catherine Ross's finger. The only thing, I did eventually see it, and the only thing I remember about it today are those two things, and Roger Daltrey choking on a chicken bone, and a nunnish-looking nurse that may or may not be a cat. The movie, the credited screenwriter on the movie was Jimmy Sangster, who is best known for all the Hammer classics he wrote, such as Curse of Frankenstein, Horror of Dracula, The Mummy, and many others. He wrote and directed The Horror of Frankenstein and Lust for a Vampire, and several of the Hammer thrillers in the 1960s. And he also wrote what is considered by many, myself included, to be the best episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker, which was Horror in the Heights, which featured the Rakshasa. The director was Richard Marquand, who would go on to bigger, better things, namely directing Return of the Jedi and the psychological thriller Jagged Edge. But that's all I remember about the legacy. Wednesday, November 12th, was a Thursday in 1974, and the Oakland Tribune ran an ad for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was 7 at that time, so I would not have seen that movie. I didn't see it until it was on home video. I watched the Wizard home video release, and it turned out to be every bit as unnerving and intense as the lurid title and ad art implied. Although that spell was broken when my dad strolled into the living room just after Sally Hardesty had jumped through a window to escape the dinner scene, was being chased by Leatherface across the field. And he asked me, "What the hell are you watching?" And I said, "The Texas Chainsaw Massacre." He sighed, shook his head, and muttered, "Figures it'd be Texas," and then he turned and walked out of the room. And that kind of broke the spell. He was from Oklahoma, so he's like, yeah, of course it's Texas. November 13th was a Thursday. However, in 1981, it was a Friday, and there was no way that Paramount was going to pass an opportunity to rake in even more cash on their Friday the 13th franchise. So they released a doubleheader of the first 2 films, and the success of that, no doubt, paved the way for the greenlighting of Friday the 13th Part 3, which would come out in 1982. Friday, November 14th, was also a Friday in 1958, and that saw the release of Earth vs. the Spider and Terror from the Year 5000 on a double bill. My first ever viewing of Earth vs. the Spider did provide a memorable jolt to my childhood psyche. One moment there's this dude driving along a road at night, and the next, his blood-splattered face is screeching in close-up. I was not expecting to see that. The rest of the movie doesn't really deliver anything close to that opening shock, but it does have a slumbering spider getting snapped out of its DDT-induced snap by a rock band's practice session, and the impromptu dance party that it has started. Also, all the teenagers in this movie look to be in their mid to late 30s, which is fun to see. The lower half was, as I said, Terror from the Year 5000, and moments in that film are sprinkled through my mind as being utterly terrifying, but it doesn't really hold up. But yeah, the image and sound of a sparkling woman lunging from the shadows and squealing like a terrified pig was just outlandish and weird enough to give me a case of the willies. We get to the weekend, and during that time, I saw Osgood Perkins' Keeper, which was, I thought, okay. I didn't like it as much as Longlegs or The Monkey. There was a point where it wasn't working for me, but when I was walking out of the theater and thinking about it, my overall thought was that it would probably be like Jordan Peele's Nope in terms of the rewatchability, and that knowing how it plays out, you start looking for all of the hints and the clues and all of the stuff, and you can probably build up an appreciation for it over time. But my overall feeling was it was on the fair side of average. It just didn't grip me, and it didn't really. I didn't connect with it either emotionally or intellectually, which was somewhat disappointing. I did finish the Dracula Archives, and because I had put it down and then didn't pick it up because they were starting in an info dump It was almost as if the author had gotten to a point and said, "Oh, wait a minute, this is called the Dracula Archives. I better put Dracula in this Dracula book." And yeah, the ending. There was a couple of things that I appreciated, but I thought it started off fairly strong, but it really tapered out. There's another book he wrote that appears to be like a haunted house or a gothic that I might check out, but this one was close, but no cigar. So it goes. Then also, let me check here on my notes. Yes, my soundtrack collection got some titles added to it. I got the soundtrack to Tom Holland's Fright Night. Brad Fiedel did the music. It does not have the songs from the film, though, so the Jay Giles Band song Fright Night is not on that. This is the Golden Age of Horror, Volume 3, which has the music for James Bernard's score for The Gorgon, and I'm going to mangle this horribly, Hiroki Ogawa's score for The Manster, and we'll pass those up. And then I had also added The Hills Have Eyes for the 1977 film. Don Peake did the music for it. And finally, Roland Stein's score for the original Not of This Earth from like 1957. And I look forward to listening to those while putting together puzzles or reading or writing or whatever else will hold my attention. Okay, then we go back. Oh, wait, we also saw a performance of Stereophonic, which is a play about a band very similar to Fleetwood Mac that kind of implodes while recording an album. And I saw it on Broadway, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very interesting play, so I was glad to see it a second time. Although this production looked to have been trimmed by about 15-20 minutes. There's a couple of scenes I remember that weren't in this production. Them's the breaks. Back to a week of ads. Monday, November 17th, was a Sunday in 1974. And here we have Dracula, featuring the late, great Udo Kier in the title role, suffering the ravages of the sexual revolution, it seems. It seems that the Count can only drink the blood of virgins, and, well, they are in agonizing short supply for him. And drinking sullied blood is poisonous to him. So he's kind of starving to death. I do think it's interesting that considering the 1-2 punches of herpes and HIV/AIDS, which were forthcoming, I think this black comedy of sexual suffering has aged really well. And I should revisit it. I think it's on Shudder, but Vinegar Syndrome also put it on Blu-ray, and I might pop for that. The story in Dracula Prince of Darkness that I had maybe put down the anthology was Blood Drive by Rex Miller, which featured something very similar in that, you know, they had to do all these blood tests to make sure that the blood was clean and safe to drink. So, yeah. And it's a good movie. So, Tuesday, November 18th, was a Friday in 1983. And the Amityville 3D opened. That was the first movie in the franchise that was not based on any pre-existing tragedy or hoax. And, you know, I did see the film on the big screen when I was living in Hong Kong. I wasn't living in the United States at the time it came out. But I did see it in 3D, and the movie didn't bore me, but it didn't really impress me either. It's an inoffensive time waster. That's it. Wednesday, November 19th, was a Tuesday in 1963. And here the Examiner shows that 5 years and 5 days after debuting as the second half of a double feature with the Earth versus the Spider, or the Spider, Terror from the Year 5000 was airing on Channel 7's pre-primetime filler program, The Big Show, with a rerun of an episode of The Rebel following thereafter. Thursday, November 20th, 1980 was also a Thursday. Thursday, November 20th was also a Thursday in 1980. And The Boogeyman was going to open on Friday, November 21st. And I remember the word of mouth being pretty toxic on this, so I didn't go see it. And I did see it when it came out on video, and I just wasn't all that impressed. Friday, November 21st. It was a Wednesday in 1979, and Parts, the Clonus Horror, opened in theaters. I do remember seeing this particular ad and being fascinated with it, but I didn't see the movie until it aired on the CBS Late Movie. And because I'm going through the newspapers, and because I have access to a database of what aired on the CBS Late Movie and when, I decided to go down the rabbit hole and find out if I could pinpoint when I actually saw it. And it appears that would have most likely occurred on Friday, April 9th, 1982. The first time I think it aired was on Friday, January 15th, 1982. But you see, Creature Features aired on KTVU at the same time, 11:30 p.m. Friday night. And Stanley was on that night. And I do remember watching that broadcast. However, on April 9th, the Hammer film fantasy adventure, The Lost Continent, was airing. And for whatever reason, I chose to skip that and watch Parts, the Clonus Horror instead. I've never really watched the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode it appears in, because I kind of like the movie and really don't have any desire to see it being mocked. You know, that happens. I checked out, because of the ad, I checked out what the co-hits of the Granada was, and that turned out to be The Legacy. And there's an oddity or a misprint, because while this ad does state that Halloween is the film's co-feature at the Saramonte 6, the listings actually show that Alien is 1979 is its co-feature. So which was it? I have no way of knowing. That Friday night, we went and saw a performance of The Woman in Black, which was an adaptation of Susan Hill's ghost story novel. It was really good. It was really scary. Tanya left during intermission, which was probably a good thing, because the second act was far more scary than the first. But I really enjoyed it. We also went and saw Wicked for Good on Saturday with some friends, and I enjoyed that immensely. Not as much as I enjoyed the first act, but the second act is always of the story is always a bit of a downer, and but I enjoyed it. And we'll probably be watching it again at some point. Sunday we went to the Smooin Christmas Ballet, which is our annual tradition of kicking off the holiday season. Mail-wise, collection-wise, this kind of got bent in the box, but the Fangoria special for Frankenstein arrived in the mail, and I will probably be doing a flip-through video of this later in the week or in the coming month of December. Also at in bookstore in Pleasanton, I think it's called Town Center Books, I bought 2 books while we were out. One is I'll Make a Spectacle of You by Beatrice Winifred Eicher, which the title caught my attention because it invoked the opening of Nope, of like, I will make a spectacle of you, and It's a nice little folk horror story about a grad student who gets pulled into a conspiracy involving a local legend about a beast in the woods in a community. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, sold. And the other one is a nonfiction book that I thought would be interesting, Book and Dagger by L.C. Graham. And this is basically about how the Office of Strategic Services in the United States was quickly formed from academia. So literature professors, librarians, and historians were training to perform undercover operations and investigative work. So basically how the humanities led to spycraft. And I'm like, hey, that sounds delightful reading there. Can't wait to read that. Also, I added an old book to the thing. I had ordered this off of eBay, The Scourge by Nick Sharman. I have no idea what this is about, but it seems to be mind control. And I figured, oh wow, somebody folded the page to keep their mark. I think that's might be when they noped out of it, but we'll see. I'll do a review of it at some point. Now, what's up after that? We come back to the movie ads for Monday, November 24th. In 1976, that was a Wednesday, and Assault on Precinct 13 opened in a minuscule number of theaters in November. Wow. Nobody knew who John Carpenter was or what he was capable of at this time, but I envy the people who were lucky enough to see this movie on the big screen before John Carpenter became, John Carpenter. At the Coliseum Drive-In, Assault was coupled with an action thriller, Killer Force, which starred Telly Savalas and Peter Fonda, and was directed by Val Guest, who had helmed The Quatermass Experiment, Quatermass 2, The Abominable Snowman, The Day the Earth Caught Fire, and many, many more. At the Hayward Automotive and Eastmont 4, it was paired with Switchblade Sisters, and the Lux Theater had it as part of a triple feature alongside Take a Hard Ride, which looks to be a spaghetti western, and something called Kung Fu Master. That latter film might be a Shaw Brothers offering, better known as The Master of Kung Fu. Maybe. Who knows? I don't. Tuesday, November 25th, 1997 was also a Tuesday. Alien Resurrection started, and the excitement just leaked out of me as that movie played on. I was really excited to see it, but by the time it was over, I was like, no. The things I liked about it were the handful of scenes with Brad Dourif, and while the newborn was an interesting concept, I don't think it was well handled or well introduced. But I did like seeing character actor Dan Hedaya in a small role. But I do also remember when there was a moment when they were like swimming through the a flooded portion of the spacecraft, and the xenomorphs came after him. There was a part where I was like, this just feels like the Poseidon Adventure meets Aliens, which is far more interesting in concept than it is in reality. And I would say that this is probably at the bottom of the list of movies in the franchise. I think the only one I didn't like, less than Alien Resurrection was Alien Romulus. Then on November 26th, Wednesday, which was the last day that I posted anything on the blog because Thanksgiving weekend was going to be chaotic. Excuse me. Was from the 1978 Sunday edition, and it is an ad for this Count Dracula and His Vampire Bride, which is a retitling of the Satanic Rites of Dracula. And although that ad campaign said the King of the Undead marries the Queen of the Zombies, yeah, that wedding ceremony never happened. This would be Christopher Lee's final performance as Dracula for Hammer, and there's a lot of excuse me, let me see if I can tickle in my throat. And he was fond of talking about um, when he did Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Oh, the dialogue was so bad. I refused to speak. Although Jimmy Sangster, who worked on the script, and I believe Terence Fisher both kind of came up with the idea that Dracula wouldn't speak because at the end of Horror of Dracula, the ashes are shown blowing away in the wind. And they decided that, well, how do you get every piece of ash, and what would it be like if you couldn't get it all? So while he's resurrected, he's Dracula, but he's not Dracula, which I thought was an interesting approach. I don't know if it's real or not, but whenever he's citing the horrible lines of dialogue in Dracula, Prince of Darkness, one of them is like, "I am the apocalypse," and he's like, "Oh, this is trash that the character in Stoker's novel would never say." Thing is, that line is from the Satanic Rites of Dracula, and he does say that line. So who knows? It's a liberty balance issue, and that when truth contradicts the legend, just go with the legend. You want to go with Lee refusing to say dialogue in Dracula, Prince of Darkness because it was bad, or because it was planned? 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. But I will say this: I do like the Satanic Rites of Dracula. I like Dracula as Bond villain, and it's goofy and uneven and not that good, but I do enjoy it, and it's a great way to pass 80 minutes. So let me round out the end of the end of the month. I got, because of the Red Cross sending me a gift certificate for donating blood, I got a gift certificate for Barnes & Noble, so I added, I think this is volume 4? Yeah, volume 4 of The Strange House, which is based off of the Uketsu novel Strange Houses, and it was my doorway into that world. And this is a really great, weird, labyrinthian mystery. I have no idea what's going on, but it is dripping with dread, and you want to find out what's going on, but you also want to run and hide from what's going on. So I really enjoy that. And I also popped for the novelization of Godzilla -1, one of my favorite Godzilla films. This evidently was written by the credited writer is Takashi Yamazaki, probably mangled that, but the man who wrote and directed the film itself. And I got those. I also added another issue of Twilight Zone magazine to my collection. This is the December 1981 issue. It's one of the issues that I did not get when I was a child or a teenager. That was December 81. I was probably about 14, maybe 13, 14. But this one's got The Pasture by Joe R. Lansdale in it, and I'll be reading and reviewing stories and articles in here at some point after I finish going through the June 1981 issue. I did do a review of The Jaunt, the first story in that, and I've gotten through a couple of other ones. I'm coming up on the next story I plan to review, which will be The Assignment by Mitch Potter, which is another story that I remember, but that is for another video later in the week. And the final thing that I got to put this down here, is I got this at the Ferry Building, actually. It's called Portal and it's San Francisco's ferry building and the reinvention of American cities. So um, I was like thumbing through it, thinking, yeah, this would be an interesting read. And I came to the small page section where they talked about it came from beneath the sea, and when the giant octopus destroyed the ferry building. And we were taking the ferry into San Francisco, and I was talking with my son about how, yeah, this is where the giant octopus came in and destroyed. It was really cool, to see it as a kid. And my son's like, yeah, Dad, sure. And I think, yeah, I'm in the back 100 of Dracula, Prince of Darkness, edited by Martin Greenberg. Review of that or some stories from it probably later. And I also cracked open Mario Bava, Master of Horror by Luigi Cozzi, who manages the Profondo Rosso store in Rome, Italy, which is where I purchased this particular book. And that's it, really. I didn't finish the unicorn tapestry puzzle that I started, that I picked up um, at the Cloisters in New York, but we'll see if I can finish that up and get it done before Christmas time. Get the video up. But there you go. I worked with notes this time, and that was basically the stuff of November. And I'll see you next month. And until then, stay scary. Bye.